Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments on adventures and travels by bike. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/332, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedal Shift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 332nd edition of the Pedal Shift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. On this edition, Day 2 of the PDX-SF2x tour. Day 2 begins with a moist tent from the misty influences of the Pacific Ocean just a few hundred meters away. With more cycling than bus riding, plus old hangs like Pacific City and Lincoln City, the day promises an easy scale up to more miles. But what if the critical bus doesn't have a bike rack like it normally does? Again. Good morning from Cape Lookout State Park in a semi-put-together tent, meaning I'm beginning the pack-up process. It is, what is it, a little after 7? Yeah, a little after 7. Got up, I was probably aware of the sunrise in the 5:30 range. Went to bed very early. I just popped in my tent probably as early as like 7:30 and just, dozed off. And then once the sun went down, I was really aware that I was in for the night. And I had a very good sleep. One thing that I do want to mention is I did upgrade my sleeping pad to a Thermarest Neo Air, and it is amazing. It inflates to about 4 inches thick, which is absolutely incredible. It's a little bit bigger packed than the RAI one that I liked for a while, but eventually has petered out, and so much better than the kind of like Amazon no-name thing that like ultimately is just a waste of money. I've talked about before about how there are certain things that I think are worth the premium compared to the kind of, get whatever you want thing. And I'm starting to add sleeping pads to the list if I hadn't before. I think I'd forgotten, and now I am very much into spending a little extra money on those. If you've got it, you certainly can have a comfortable night on a $20 closed cell foam kind of situation. But for the inflatables, spend the extra money. This was a little over $100, I think, and hopefully it'll last me quite a while. And it certainly made a huge difference because I don't think I have to tell you, sleep is important on these trips. I feel a lot better compared to last night. Especially as you heard in the last episode, I think a little cranky, maybe. And that was partially because I just didn't have a great night's sleep. And maybe for the last couple of nights, even going into it, because just situations on the home side of things and going to bed late. I went to a show. That's what it was. I went to a show. I saw Garbage and Noel Gallagher, formerly of Oasis. So I had a late night, had a beer or two. And I'm also discovering that if I have a beer or two and I'm not like active, then that impacts my sleep. Just one, which is crazy. But last night, not a problem. I had a cider and a couple sips of wine, and there were no ill effects because I slept very good, in part because of my new air mattress and because I cycled roughly, well, you heard the statistics last episode. I'll calculate them later, but you already know. Today, because I'm getting a nice early start, I think it gives me a little bit of flexibility. I've already even had my coffee and breakfast. I had mentioned, and you know this probably from past episodes, that I did not bring a stove. So I got one of those like bottled coffees with sugar and chocolate in it and stuff I would normally not touch, but because I'm cycling, I'm fine with. But I also added into it a couple of packets of instant coffee as well to up the coffee level. And that was really excellent. So I think I'm going to potentially consider doing that again for other mornings when it's possible, if I am able to do a resupply run prior to camp night, which I believe I should be able to tonight. I can hit a grocery store in Newport before I cross over Yaquina Bay to South Beach State Park, so I may do that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else of interest. Oh, there were other people in camp last night, but I did not interact with anybody else other than to say hello. The 3 women that I mentioned last time, they looked like they were hiking because the Pacific, I believe it's the Pacific Coast Trail or the Coast Crest Trail or something like that. That runs all the way through these campgrounds, which makes for an excellent adventure if you're into hiking as well. Beyond that, start this morning. I don't know if you can catch it, but like my tent, I'm going to have to pack up a little wet, which is not unusual on the Oregon coast because you wake up in the morning and you're going to catch some fog, and I'm catching some fog, and most of the stuff on the outside is going to be wet. So I'm going to give that a good shake as best I can and just put it on probably, I don't know if I'm going to pack it on the outside of my gear as I ride or not. It's going to depend on how much water I can shake up. All right, that is it for the morning. I'm going to pack up. I'll probably put in an entry between here and Pacific City, conditions permitting, and we'll get to Pacific City. Beyond that, there's a fast forward from Pacific City to Lincoln City, and gets me through some of Lincoln City. I'm thinking of maybe getting a lunch at my beloved Pagan Pancake there, and then I was going to ride all the way to Newport from there, which is not that bad. I mean, neither of these are like huge rides. I think it'll end up being probably in the 40-mile range today, maybe a touch less. But depending on conditions and depending on how the traffic is in Lincoln City, I may see about taking a bus beyond Lincoln City just to fast forward outside the outskirts. It's just a drag to ride in because it's very highly trafficked, particularly in the summer. But if traffic doesn't seem to be too bad, I will ride from there just because it's a nice riding between Lincoln City and Newport, outside of Lincoln City, of course. From Henderson Viewpoint, just south of the campsite, I can see the campsite from up here, or at least parking for it, it looks like. Yeah, actually I see the very beach that I was last week for you. Climb is robust. I promised I would not complain too much about my bicycle gearing situation, but it's noticeable. It just is. But I'll get used to it. I mean, it's just the bottom line. I'm in my lowest gear, and I think it would have been easier in my prior gearing setup. So, you know, it'll be fine. I'm gonna ride my way into climbing shape, I think, by the time I really need it in California. But yeah, it's fine. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I hope I do share this image with you from today because it's just stunning. And of course, you know, I hate the pictures in some ways because they're never the same. They're never what you see. Your eyes are better, even with lousy eyes. If you have lousy vision, they are still better than whatever these images can make for you. So I'm doing my best. I'm not sure if you can pick up the waves crashing below, but just beautiful. Sun's breaking out, which is good and bad, you know, as for all the reasons. I'm in sun sleeves mode. I'll probably apply some sunscreen on my neck just for this portion of the ride. I am in shade a lot of it, especially as I get out of this viewpoint, I'll go back into shade, so maybe it won't be so bad. What is the temperature right now? Excellent question. 58 degrees. It is 58 degrees right now. It feels warmer than that. I have to be honest, I'm surprised how warm it feels. I think the marine layer just feels like it just holds heat in, thermostat notwithstanding. Okay, let's see here. Probably another 10, 11 miles to go until Pacific City. And I'm aiming for a very particular bus that I should have maybe even an hour, depending on how fast I go here. There's some downhills, there's one more decent grade of note right before Pacific City, which of course will slow me down, but I'm hoping to get there with about an hour to spare so I can just hang out. There's a beautiful beach there. There's a good coffee shop. Lots of opportunities there. And then I grab the bus from the Pelican Pub and take that right into Lincoln City. From just passing Camp Merriweather, the Boy Scouts of America Cascade Pacific Council camp, they have "Get You Fired Up" signs. Something begins here or something starts here because the sign fell down. Grit lasts forever. I think grit is a Boy Scout thing. I don't know. I guess so. My Boy Scout history is littered with not caring. I went through Cub Scouts and went all the way, got the Arrow of Light, which is, I guess, the biggest thing you can do, and then went to Boy Scouts thinking, awesome, camping. It's all about camping, this Boy Scout thing. Then you learn that it's a lot more than that. And Hey, if you're a Boy Scout and you love it, or if you're involved with the Boy Scouts, or the Girl Scouts, or any Scouts, there are different ones across the world. Hey, cool. Was not for me. I remember when I told my dad that I was going to no longer continue, I was like, it's too much like the Army. And again, no disrespect to the military service. I have many family members who have served, but it was never me. I am not the type of person that is good with orders. In fact, quite the opposite. So I am grateful for the armed services and folks who serve in that capacity, because I am not equipped for it. All right, we are descending again, big descent after a big climb. I believe we're gonna flatten out after this for a little bit. And then there's, like I mentioned before, there's a couple of other things. Sorry for the wind that you're catching right now. Very duny right here, which is weird because I wouldn't expect it to have dunes. This is, again, only the second time I've ever ridden this road. So it's fun to have something not new, but unfamiliar, less familiar, I should say. It's very beautiful in here. The trees, everything. I would recommend this. Last week for you, yesterday for me, I was kind of like, the roads are crowded, and I got buzzed by a truck. And I mean, that can happen anywhere. It's worth it out here. It really is. It's now very low traffic on a Monday morning. Okay, I'm going down a big hill, so you're gonna get blown out by wind. So we'll stop here. More to come. From beautiful, glorious Cape Kiwanda, Pacific City. It is gorgeous out, foggy, cold, the usual. Got some coffee and a bagel at Stimulus Coffee Shop, which is a great place to go if you're in town. And just now took some pictures by, I think it's a haystack rock, not the haystack rock, but it's one of the more beautiful, picturesque spots that you can see here. I'm really struck by how built up Pacific City has become, how many new homes have been built on the outskirts of town. And it's funny because years ago I thought this would be a place where I'd want to end up because I think it was a gem at the time. And now I think it's starting to become more built up. So of course I'm like, yeah, screw it. But I think back in the day it would have been a great place. I think that people figured out the secret, though. This was probably, arguably, and I think I probably said it on the pod, my favorite town on the whole coast, just because of its size and its natural beauty here. But yeah, people figured it out. I think the tough part is that this place is doomed because of when the big one hits. I mean, a good chunk of this town is gone. And, I think that's what ultimately convinced me not to pursue it. There was a time when a small place could have been affordable, but definitely in the tsunami zone. And, I chose against that. And I think that was probably the right choice. All right, enough doom and gloom. I am fully caffeinated, fully caloried up. And now I've got some interesting choices ahead. I've got plenty of time here to get my bike prepared for the bus. I'm not going to be in a rush, which is my preference, of course, always. Then I have an interesting choice. It's a reasonably quick ride. It's about maybe 40 minutes to Lincoln City. And then, am I hungry? Do I need more calories? Do I want a meal? Do I want to just hop on the bike and ride? Is the congestion, is it really busy? Do I want a second fast forward? Lots of different forks in the road there. The least riding option would be effectively, if I really wanted the least riding option, I could take a bus immediately from, I think it's the casino, from the casino right to Newport if I wanted to. I think that's the least likely option that I would take. I'm feeling just fine, and that just seems to go against the entire point of this trip. I also did that the last time I was here, but that was, of course, being forced by mechanicals more than anything else. I do think that there's a good chance that I will take the bus. I shouldn't say good chance. There is a possibility that I will take the bus just a little bit outside of town, and that would be if I'm like, you know what, I'm fine. I don't want to stop at Pig and Pancake. I don't need more food in me. I can rely on my snacks. That would also, of course, give me just a touch of a fast forward and get me into Newport a little bit earlier, and I could always get a bite to eat there. Or I could just say, screw it, I only want to ride one bus today, and just start riding. So, I don't know. we'll see. We'll see how I feel. I think this is one where it's like, I'm glad I've got options, but I think in some ways I have too many options. And, what's the line? Paradox of choice. I'm sure that's a phrase I've used a bunch of times. It's one of my favorite phrases out there. Gosh, it's such a shame that this is such a quick trip here. I do, as much as I just poo-pooed Pacific City, I do truly still love it. There is a vibe here, a lot of great memories. If you've seen the picture that I've shown of Mysterious James, him covering his face, the classic MJ shot, that was here. And I just took a picture of the bike, probably steps away from where that happened. I think I've talked about this before. When I redo the Pacific Coast, I am instantly flooded with memories of any spot that I'm in. Chances are I've got a memory of it, and Pacific City is just full of memories. The campsite I'm looking at that I used to stay at, but has become a little bit less friendly for hiker biker. It's expensive. It's booked consistently now because this is a popular place. There are rabbits there. I have pictures of them. It's just fun. It's misty and funky and cool, and I like that. There's a surfer vibe to it. There's just a lot of stuff here. It's cool. All right, enough of that. I got to pack up the bike, get ready for the bus, and the next stop would be Lincoln City. Good old Lincoln City. A little too congested for my taste, so we'll see. We'll see what I choose. You'll learn in a matter of moments. From Lincoln City, Oregon, at the Circle K, across the street from the Pig and Pancake. Traffic is really busy right now, and I just cannot be bothered to cross 101. I just couldn't do it. And I needed, in this order, a restroom, and I needed some additional beverages to get me through what is one more real good climb up to Yaquina Head, which is where the lighthouse is and whatnot. That's well south of here. I've got a lot of cycling to first. I've got Lincoln Beach and a bunch of other things. But anyways, I just wanted to make sure I got caffed up a little bit. I wasn't hungry, but I thought it's probably worth getting something a little more substantive in me. So I got a quick burrito and got some sports drink, grape flavored, the only proper flavor. And let's see. Yeah, I'm basically all snacked up, so that's all good. The bus was interesting. This is the first time I've ever run into this. And now this is 2 buses in a row where it's like there's an issue with bike access. There was no rack on this bus, none, 0. And it was a full bus, and the driver was like, yeah, if you can get the bike in, you're welcome to. And I was able to, but I'm holding the bike the whole way. So I hope that the transit systems are getting this out of their system because, it's fine here. There are multiple buses. I could stand to miss a bus and still be okay around here. Further south, I really am relying on these systems to be able to take this bike. So we're just going to have to see. I think there's some critical buses. There's a critical bus tomorrow. And of course, in California, there's some pretty critical buses as well. So we're just going to have to see how this all goes. I'm also thinking, God, that bus to Santa Rosa, if they don't take bikes, I'm going to have a problem. But yeah, hey, we'll figure it out. This is a transit-aided tour, and I have very little wiggle room, it turns out, I'm realizing, and I'm just doing this on the fly. So I planned it, but didn't plan it, but planned it, if that all makes sense. All right, so the rest of my day, I've got plenty of daylight. I mean, more daylight than I could shake a stick at. But of course, I do like to get into South Beach State Park on the early side, only because I love it. It's the vibes there are great. It allows me to get set up, get showered, get everything in the locker charging, because it's another one of those campsites that has one of those charging lockers. Although, to be honest, I don't really have much to charge at this point. I'm pretty fully charged up, but I will nonetheless. Maybe my watch or something like that. Yeah, get set up there. And then, of course, we got Brewers on the Bay, so I'll have a nice, good celebratory dinner tonight. Last night was great. I did the requisite Safeway salad in a bag plus something else thing. And tonight it'll be good to do a nice sit-down thing, and I really like that place, as you are all aware, because that's all I do is talk about this place. And the vibes there. So looking forward to it. I think it's under 30 miles, if memory serves, from here to there, which is great. pretty easy, big climb, beautiful area, challenging climb. I believe it's pretty exposed. The sun is out, but you know, it's got, what's the temperature right now? It's got to be it's 62 degrees. It's just glorious. All right, off we go. And of course, we'll be reporting all along the way here on day 2. From, we'll call it Lincoln Beach, Depot Bay. I think we're right in between the two. I'm about 18 miles from South Beach State Park. So probably, we'll call it 15 or so from Newport. So roughly halfway, give or take, a little bit less than that. And there's this like cool little secret beach that I usually blow past. And I just thought, this is a good time to take a little bit of a break, stretch the calves, watch the waves come in a little bit. It's not such a secret beach anymore. There's quite a few people here, but the access point here is really bike only. I think there's a parking lot up ahead. There must be for all these folks to be able to come in here, but just beautiful. I'll get a picture of it and hopefully be sharing it either in the show notes or elsewhere. Ride's going great. You know, it's funny. I think it took, you know what I always say, it takes till day 3 to really click in. I felt at least some kind of a click in once I was getting out of Lincoln City. I'm starting to feel like I can actually be a bike tourer. You know, there are times when I do this, especially in the last few years, where it's like, I don't know if it's age or if it's getting in my head or whatever, but like there's times when I'm like, man, am I still able to do this? And inevitably it happens, and boom, here I am. So we like that. I think tomorrow I will stick to my guns on the 3rd day being the day where things click in, which will be good because tomorrow's a more complex day. Next week for you, tomorrow for me. All right, so yeah, everything's going well. Traffic's pretty moderate, I would say. I got buzzed by another Class A motorhome pulling an SUV. So there you go with your global warming causer there. My goodness. Yeah, and it's just like people who drive them, you know, I mean, it's not easy, but it's stunning. You don't need a special license for those things. But and there was plenty of room. They could have given me some more space, but I'm noticing it more on this trip. But for the most part, it's been totally fine. I do look forward to maybe getting to some sections further away from Lincoln City and Newport in particular. Well, it's Lincoln City in particular. It's always around Lincoln City that I find the traffic it gets to me a little bit. And then once I get south of Depot Bay, it's usually a lot better. I do have one big climb coming up. I'm sure I'll be checking in at some point, maybe in the midst of all of that, or maybe at the summit of that by the lighthouse, the Yaquina Bay Lighthouse, or Yaquina Head Lighthouse, excuse me. So that's cool. Ran into somebody while I was at there's this really cool section, maybe 10 miles back or so, where it talks about the great tsunami of I think it was in the 1700s. I took a picture of it. I always mean to take a picture of it because I want to read it while I'm sitting down, not while I'm taking a water break, you know. But, you know, it was the usual kind of, how far are you going today kind of stuff, but it was actually a nice conversation. And yeah, it's always funny how, you know, people think you're superhuman doing it, and you all know that's far from the truth. But yeah, it was a nice conversation. But I tell you what, I am looking more and more ahead to getting into camp, getting all set up. I don't know if the sun's going to be out, if I'm going to be able to air things out a little bit, because I do have that wet tent. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting in. Oh, one thing I've been noticing, and I see them right here, blackberry bushes. I saw a few that were producing ripe berries, which I thought was pretty great. I'm seeing some right now that are far from that. They must not be getting enough sunlight like those other ones were. But in any event, yeah, that might be some roadside snacking possibilities further on down. All right, I'm going to grab a little hydration, leave you be, and I'll check in down the road. About 13 miles or so from camp. Make that like an hour and change. I still have some climbing to do. I'm at the Otter Crest Loop. If you've ridden this section of Oregon coast before, this is the part where you're off of 101 on this weird one-way street. They're doing some utility work here, so there was some road crews that I had to get around, but no big deal. Beautiful day. It's really sunny. Normally when I'm going through this section, it's fogged in, so it's weird for it to be so sunny. It's nice to get into the shade when I've got the opportunity. Glad I put on the sunscreen. Glad I had more quote-unquote warmer weather riding gear, because it's been warm. It's felt warmer because of the sun. But I do want to be careful of sun exposure, of course, as always. But yeah, otherwise all things are going pretty good. I am looking forward. I think 13 miles is about where I'd feel done today. So I'll, of course, be going through Newport first and may take a quick stop there. Maybe, I don't know. I guess it'll just depend on how I feel. I do have to cross the Yaquina Bridge, which is no small feat. It's very narrow. I always take the sidewalk, and you have to maneuver around some of the stanchions there. And if you're not into heights, it's a pretty big bridge. So I'm okay with heights, but I do get vertigo. So I try not to look down. And yeah, so there's that. And then it's a big downhill, and then a little bit of twisting and turning, and then I'm at South Beach State Park. Nothing else really to talk about at this point that I'm willing to share, and we are. I guess that's it. I guess you'll hear from me further on down the road. From Newport, Oregon, on the back roads here on the bike official cycling route, I am huffing and puffing, and I am officially leaving a tsunami zone. You enter and leave many of them as you ride along the Oregon coast. And I'm sure there's a method to the madness about elevation and whatnot. And I'm sure the people who live on this side of it are happy with their investment choices. So, ride has gone well. I am scheduled for about a 4 o'clock arrival, which is perfectly fine. I considered going to Yaquina Head Lighthouse, but decided against it. I've been there before several times. I just feeling that given this is day 2 and I'm feeling the mileage a little bit and the hills, it's probably good to get another good rest in, get a good meal in me, and then tomorrow I think things are really gonna do great, or be great. And I think that, as I mentioned earlier, day 3, always the solid day for a tour. Nothing specifically new to report, but bike is riding quite well. I did throw the chain again going into the lowest gear, so there is something wrong about that, which could have been my reassembly, but it's too consistent for me to think that that's the case. Again, I do notice the loss of the final climbing gear. It does feel like that I don't have my lowest low gear, but I'll make do. Sorry for the wind here as we descend, but probably better than hearing me huff and puff on the way up, which is going to happen in a moment here. So, yeah, looking forward to getting, let's see here, should check and see when the map says that I'm going up. Sorry, I have sharrows on this road, and somebody is waiting to pass me here. There we go. Yeah, I usually stay on 101 for this stretch, but I wanted it to be a little quieter. And it was probably the right choice, but at the same time, I kind of like 101's constant grade. It's kind of like, rather than the up and down, it's kind of like it's a consistent up and a consistent down. You can get it all at once, and the grades aren't as steep. But I think I'm nearly back to coming back to it. And I think that, if memory serves, this is one part of 101 going into Newport that is a little congested and not my favorite part, so maybe this is all right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna hop off in the shade here and bid you all adieu for now. I think next you'll hear from me probably when we're crossing the Yaquina Bridge, because I like some companionship for that death trap of a bridge. We are at the foot, the Newport side of the Yaquina Bridge, and you're gonna come with me. Let's see. My guy's got a stop sign. All right. Now, you have a choice. with this bridge. You can hit a button and tell people that you are riding this bridge. By the way, I call it a monster. There are bigger bridges in the state of Oregon. Further south from here, I'll be fast forwarding over one if I stick with my plan tomorrow. That one is a little more clutch your heart in your chest. Is that how it goes? I don't know. Anyways, that one's a trickier one, and that one you do have to ride. There's a little Vietnam memorial, or maybe it's a Veterans of War in General memorial, right before it, coming southbound. And I always stop there and sugar up, cap up, because that's a big bridge. This one, I tend to prefer to walk. I have ridden it, didn't care for it. There's enough of a grade going up as you ascend here that you're not super fast. You create the trail of traffic behind you. I just don't like it. There's no room for folks to go around you. I didn't have anybody go around me. It would be super dangerous. It's a 2-lane bridge. So, yeah. But the views up here, it's worth slowing down. Now, I'm not like I said, I don't have a heights problem, although I do get vertigo pretty easily. But on a beautiful day like this, man, what a view. You can see this big kelp bundle flowing towards the open ocean. You can see the South Jetty over there. That, of course, is where I'll be heading at one point. I can see Rogue's Brewers on the bay. I'm a broken record on my love for that. And just generally speaking, it's just gorgeous here. You get a really fantastic view of the coastal range, or at least one of the mountains on the coastal range, I suppose. I don't know how far south it goes. Well, I'm sure there is, because that just is what it is. Okay, this is the first of, you can hear the echo there, of the stanchions. The reason why I don't ride it is because it's a little tricky to ride fully loaded through them. When I go through the second one, I will thank you for being my companion, and I will ride down and descend down to ground level. And not far from there is South Beach State Park, the end of day 2. Well, not my end of day 2. I got stuff going on. Will I? Maybe you'll come with me to Brewers on the Bay. I think I once did a drunken soliloquy to Newport, Oregon, many years ago. I don't think we'll get quite that level of drink on tonight, but yeah, maybe I won't close out when we get to camp. Maybe we'll continue the evening together. There's a fishing trawler going out. Obviously, about to get to work. Over my left shoulder, you could see the harbor and a ton of mostly pleasure craft that I'm seeing, but I think some other working fishing boats over there as well. It's really picturesque. I do have to say, if I were to relocate to the West Coast, Newport, Oregon would certainly be on my list of places to consider. It's big enough that there's stuff here, small enough that it's not crazy, and I love me these temperate summers. And living on the West Coast cycling route wouldn't be so bad. All right, we're almost to the second stanchion here. I'm calling it a stanchion. It's this Art Deco thing that probably is drilled deep into the muck below in the bay. And you get to hear the cool echo in a moment here. Hold on. Better than the traffic. We are inside. This is the fun audio for you. All right. Oh, actually, there's one more thing. Okay, you're going to join me for one more thing. This is actually the dangerous one coming up. Oh, and lucky me, I've got somebody running on my side of the bridge. Oh, I know why, because the other side is closed. So we're going to walk until they pass me, because that would be truly dangerous. The grade is very steep coming down, and this person's coming up at me. There is not a lot of space for double width, so I am absolutely not going to be riding now. This makes me doubly grateful that I did not start riding early, because I would have to be squeezing on the brakes and hopping off, and now I won't have to do that. Oh, there's two people, even more fun and dangerous. It's not their fault, it's just our situation. Okay, I am going to, well, we'll let them go by, and then I'll say goodbye to you for a bit. What a beautiful view. I should take a picture. Oh. Thank you. All right. I will take a picture, and I will say farewell to you for now. From Brewers on the Bay. Got into the campsite, got that all set. Hopefully you're not getting hammered by wind right now. There's a very sustained bit of breeze coming off of the bay here. There were several people in camp, and I just don't like recording around people, so I don't think I'll record from camp tonight. So I'll do a quick check-in here, and then maybe one after dinner, and then we will call it a day. Sporadic cell phone service? I remember getting better cell phone service around here, but it's fine. Don't super need it, but I'm at least able to get texts out, so that's good. But dude, I am starving right now. I am so ready to eat. I did not eat lunch like I typically do on this route, so I think that might be part of it. I ate enough. I was fine. I did not bonk by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm definitely ready for a good dinner. So, all right, in I go. Brewers on the Bay, one of my favorite places on planet Earth to eat and get a beer. Thank you very much. Hello, and as promised, a post-dinner close to the episode. Let's start off with, this is an amazing place. It really is. The scenery is amazing. The setup here is great. I really do truly love this. This is a centerpiece of any Oregon coast cycling for me. Also, my hamstring's about to explode. It's funny, I've been taking good care of electrolytes on this trip, and despite that, last night, I didn't mention this, last night I had a near cramp. I'll call it a near cramp in the sense that it cramped up, but it wasn't like the disastrous type of cramping that I normally get. Literally at the bar just now, while I was eating, my right hamstring started to seize up. And luckily I was able to hop out of the seat enough to stretch it out. But I'm a little concerned about tonight. I took 2 electrolyte pills literally before dinner. So I do not understand this. Clearly #old, okay? But I will probably take another, I guess, electrolyte pill. I mean, it seems silly to take 2 more, but anyways, that seems to be a continuing issue with my muscles and all of this. Could it be alcohol related? Possibly. I only had a beer and a half, so it's not like I had some ridiculous amount of beer, but possibly also I noticed that I was getting, I don't want to say fatigued. It was sort of like, oh, if I had them with me, I would take a couple of ibuprofen right now. It was how I felt before I started eating. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I interrupted what was going to be a nice soliloquy about how great I love this area and I love Newport, how much I love it. I guess that was a complete thought though, so I think I was there. So, end of day 2, a very successful day. I have weird tan lines as pointed out by the bartender. I have a watch, a very substantial Apple Watch tan line, which is hysterical. I also have the classic, do you guys get this? When you wear cycling gloves, do you get small spots on your hands where the cycling gloves meet, but there's a small circle that's exposed? I have both of those. So, yeah. The wind is picking up. The sun is still out. I was talking messaging Mysterious James, and he was the one who introduced me to South Beach State Park. Actually, this is actually a good point to mention. Beverly Beach, which is The campground to the north of Newport is the suggested stop in the book. And James, years ago, more than 10 years ago, I think, said, oh, you should try South Beach State Park. And thank goodness he did, because this is just, Beverly Beach, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly lovely state park, but it is nowhere near as picturesque and amazing. And that's why for years I've been begging literally all of you to go, if you're going to be stopping somewhere near Newport, please stop here. It's just so great. The views, everything. Anyways, today, the sun exposure was pretty high, and I told James about it. I believe that I am scattered right now, and I have nothing poetic to say, nor anything interesting to say as the end of the day here. I am standing under the bridge, and it's very picturesque, and it's very nice, and this is just a really nice place to be. And as the close of the second day and going into that great third day, which is usually when things really click in, I'm feeling great about this trip, and I'm really feeling that the notion of the limited fast forwards plus with the kind of, 5-star cycling that I do that gets paired with it is just A+. I'm really happy with how this has gone so far. Preview for next week. Tomorrow for me, next week for you. Interesting day. It's going to start with I get to sleep in a little bit, which is kind of nice after today. I got up at literally the crack of dawn. I don't have to tomorrow. There's a bus that I take to Yachats, and Yachats affords me a great place to grab a little bit of food if I would like to, which I probably will, and then I will cycle along to beautiful Florence, Oregon. I have plenty of time to do that. There is a critical bus from there that will take me to North Bend. It is a bus I've never taken before. It is a bus that says reservations highly encouraged, so I will be calling them tomorrow to see if that's actually necessary. Given the randomness of the bike situation on the buses the last couple of days, I'm a little nervous because this really is a critical one. It is a new-ish bus. This bus used to not exist, and to be able to get from Florence to North Bend affords me it really fills in a gap here on the Oregon coast and is a necessary thing for me to be able to pull all of this off. So when I make that phone call tomorrow, I think that's going to really allay some of my fears, as it were. Should I have called them weeks ago? Sure. I emailed them. I got no response. They had an email on the website. So, yeah, we're going to find out about that tomorrow. And assuming that all works out, I have a little bit of quasi-close to dusk riding to take me to the dreaded Sunset Beach campground. Yes, the one that I say is the worst one on the Oregon coast. The reason why I'm going to be doing that is because by doing this ride, first of all, it like I said, critical piece of infrastructure to get me further south in a timely way. It is other than a hotel, it is the only camping option, and it's fine. It's fine, so I'll do it, and I've got lights and I'll be able to do it. I still may be able to get in before full sunset, but in any event, maybe putting the tent up in the dark, which is not my favorite thing in the world to do. But the beauty of the next day is, the beauty of the next day is for a different show. So that's a preview for next week. I think that tomorrow is interesting because it is the only day of this entire trip where it is a bus ride. And it's unusual. And I think that because of that, because it isn't just like a one day where I take one bus or a series of buses that are meant to work together, there's some nervousness with that. Because if it doesn't work out, things can be problematic. So there's your drama for next week for you, tomorrow for me. Until next time. Statistics. Bike miles, 48. Bus miles, 19. Consecutive number of times my bike's been jammed inside a bus since this whole thing started, 2. Beers consumed, 1.5. Didn't finish the second one. Tents dried in the Newport air, 1. Flats, 0.
And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedal Shift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedal Shift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community. Expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options. If you're not into the small monthly thing, check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Didis, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joachim Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Henkel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Bigel, Greg Middlemiss, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latoile Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Kropke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lico, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCullough, John Hickman, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Michael Izuski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponsell, Chad Reno, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, Darren McKibben, Richard Stewart, Dave Fletcher, Jack Smith, Luke Parkinson, Ryan Patterson, Sarus Faravar, John Gardner, Sam Scruggs, Dwight Pintinger, Connie Bowder, Rob Merrifield, and thanks to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.